60 years old, carrying struggles the world never noticed, an endless love the world never deserved. Her life did not unfold gently. It pressed her down, tested her patience, asked more from her than it ever gave back. She learned early that strength is not loud. It does not announce itself. It survives quietly, in tired hands that keep working, in a heart that keeps forgiving, in a soul that refuses to harden. Every year added weight to her shoulders, yet she never let it crush her kindness. She carried hunger without complaint, loneliness without bitterness, and responsibility without rest. While others chased comfort, she chased survival, not just for herself, but for everyone who depended on her. Her love did not come wrapped in luxury. It came in small sacrifices, missed dreams, and sleepless nights. She gave warmth when she felt cold, hope when hers was fading, and protection when no one protected her. The world counted her losses, measured her poverty, and overlooked her worth. But they never counted the heart she saved, the pain she absorbed, or the love she poured out endlessly, without asking for anything in return. This is not just the story of a woman aging. This is the story of a woman who carried struggle like a burden, and love like a duty, and never put either down. She woke each day, already tired, not from sleep she didn't get, but from worries that never let her rest. Before the sun rose, she was already carrying the weight of unfinished duties, unspoken fears, and responsibilities no one else claimed. Life never offered her ease. It offered endurance. She learned to stretch little things, a handful of food, a small hope, a fragile smile, into enough for everyone else. What she lacked in wealth, she replaced with effort, with patience, with a love that refused to run dry. Her dreams were often postponed, quietly set aside, for the sake of others' comfort. She watched her own wishes fade, while she built futures for people who may never realize what her sacrifices cost. Yet she never asked for gratitude, never demanded recognition. Pain visited her often, but bitterness never found a home in her heart. She endured disappointment, betrayal, and loneliness, yet she chose kindness over anger, forgiveness over resentment. Her strength lived in that choice, to remain gentle in a world that hardened her daily. She carried love like a sacred responsibility, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily, through long nights, through silent tears, through years that asked too much. Even when her own heart felt heavy, she made space for others to feel safe. At 60, her body shows the years, but her soul shows wisdom. She is proof that struggle does not destroy love. It deepens it. And though the world may call her poor, she stands rich in a devotion that never learned how to quit. She has carried life the way one carries water in fragile hands, carefully, patiently, never wasting a drop. Even when her own thirst remained, every year taught her how to balance pain and hope, how to move forward with a heart that had every reason to give up, yet never did. Her days were long, measured not by clocks, but by responsibilities. She learned how to be strong without ever being asked, how to stay standing when no one came to help. When life closed doors, she learned to wait, and when it offered nothing, she learned to endure. She lost people, lost chances, lost parts of herself that never returned. Still, she chose love, not because it was easy, but because it was the only thing that made survival meaningful. She carried grief quietly, folded it into her chest, and turn it into compassion for others who are hurting. Her hands tell stories. Her mouth never speaks. They have cleaned, cooked, healed, and wiped away tears that were never her own. They have trembled with exhaustion, yet never refused to give. Even when her body begged for rest, her heart answered first. She learned forgiveness. Before she learned fairness, she learned patience. Before she learned comfort, she has lived long enough to know that life does not soften with time. It sharpens its lessons, repeats its trials, and asks for strength, even when strength feels spent. Yet she kept walking, step after step, carrying her years, like both a burden and a badge of honor. There were nights when silence sat beside her heavier than pain. No one to ask how she was, no one to notice the tears she wiped away before morning. She learned to comfort herself, to gather courage from within, and to face each dawn without expecting mercy. Her sacrifices were not dramatic. They were quiet, constant, woven into everyday moments. Missed meals, delayed dreams, and words swallowed to keep peace. She gave up rest so others could sleep, gave up hope so others could believe. Life tested her faith repeatedly. Loss knocked on her door without warning, and disappointment followed closely behind. Still, she refused to become hard. She chose tenderness, even when it felt dangerous, chose love, even when it left her empty. Her body bears the history of labor and patience. Her hands ache, her back bends, her breath slows, but her heart remains open. She did not let suffering define her. She let it refine her. At 60, she understands that survival is not about winning. It is about staying human. When the world tries to strip that away, she stands as quiet proof that endless struggle can coexist with endless love, and that a woman who endures with grace is richer than any fortune. She has reached a point in life where every breath carries memory. 60 years of living have filled her silence with stories. Stories of waiting, of hoping, of surviving when giving up would have been easier. She does not speak of them often, because she learned long ago that pain rarely listens when it is explained. Her strength was never born from comfort. It was shaped in moments when she stood alone, when help never arrived, and when prayers felt heavier than the answers. She learned how to turn weakness into endurance, and endurance into quiet courage that no one applauded. She gave more than she kept. Time, energy, dreams, all were spent on others. She watched her own desires fade, while she protected the futures of those she loved. And even now, she carries no regret, only a tired heart that still knows how to care. Her life was full of goodbyes that never received closure. People left, promises broke, and years passed without apology. Still, she remained gentle, refusing to let bitterness become her language. She chose forgiveness again and again, even when it hurt. Her love did not seek reward. It existed in actions, in warm meals placed quietly, in worries carried silently, in hands that kept giving, even when they shook. She became a shelter for broken souls, a place where pain could rest, without judgment. At 60, she understands that love is not about being noticed. It is about being present. And though her life was heavy with struggle, her heart remains light enough to still choose compassion. She stands as living proof that endless love can survive endless hardship and still remain pure. She carries 60 years, like chapters written in endurance. Each year asked something from her. strength she did not know she had, patience she never planned to learn, and faith she rebuilt every time it cracked. Life never slowed for her, never waited until she was ready. Yet she kept moving forward, with a heart that refused to surrender. Her days were spent giving, not what she had extra, but what she needed herself. She gave time when she was exhausted, care when she was hurting, and hope when her own was barely breathing. No one saw the cost. No one counted the nights she lay awake, talking to her worries. In the dark, she learned to survive disappointment, to smile when words hurt, to stay quiet when speaking would change nothing. Life tested her kindness again and again, yet she never let cruelty become her response. She chose softness in a world that kept demanding hardness. Her hands tell the truth. Her lips never explain. They have labored, served, and comforted without rest. They have trembled from fatigue, yet never refused help. Even now, they move with care, as if love itself guides every motion. She has lost much, people, dreams, years, but she never lost herself. Pain visited her often, yet it never made her bitter. She carried grief like a quiet companion, never allowing it to poison her compassion. At 60, her body shows the weight of time, but her soul shows victory. She stands not because life was easy, but because she endured, without losing her humanity. She is proof that struggle can shape strength, that love can survive decades of hardship, and that a woman with nothing in her hands can still carry endless love in her heart. She has lived long enough to understand that survival is not a single victory, but 1,000 quiet decisions made every day. Decisions to wake up, to keep going, to love again, even when love had already cost her so much. There were seasons when life felt heavier than hope, when losses arrived without warning, and explanations never followed. She learned to carry unanswered questions, to walk forward, without knowing where the road would lead, trusting only the strength she had built through suffering. Her sacrifices were endless, and mostly invisible. She traded her comfort for someone else's peace, her dreams for someone else's future, and her silence for someone else's stability. She never asked the world to remember her choices, only that those she loved would be safe. Pain shaped her, but it did not define her. She allowed it to teach her empathy, to soften her judgment, to deepen her compassion. Instead of growing cold, she grew wiser, learning when to speak, and when love required silence. Her heart became a refuge. People came to her broken, and left feeling lighter. She listened without interrupting, gave without keeping count, and forgave without conditions. Even when her own strength felt thin, she somehow found more for others. At 60, she carries not only years, but lessons earned the hard way. She knows that love is not fragile. It is resilient. That endurance is not weakness. It is courage in disguise. She stands today as a quiet monument to what a woman can survive and still remain kind. She moves through her days with a calm the world mistakes for ease. They do not see the storms that once lived inside her, the nights she survived alone, the tears she learned to cry without sound. Her silence is not emptiness. It is strength that learned how to stay quiet. She has given so much of herself that sometimes she forgets what it feels like to be cared for. Yet even now, her instinct is to give, to check on others first, to make sure everyone else is all right before she considers her own heart. Life tested her limits repeatedly. When she was tired, it asked her to stand longer. When she was broken, it demanded patience. And when she had nothing left to offer, it still took. Yet she remained, refusing to become bitter, refusing to let pain rewrite her nature. Her love matured with time. It is no longer naive, but it is still pure. It understands loss. It knows disappointment. Yet it continues to believe in kindness, in loyalty, in human goodness. She has learned that not every wound heals, but it can be carried with grace. That not every prayer is answered, but faith can still survive. Her strength lives in acceptance, not surrender, but the courage to keep living fully, despite everything. At 60, she is not weak. She is refined. Her heart holds decades of lessons. Her soul carries a quiet fire, and her love remains endless. She is proof that endurance can be gentle, that strength can be soft, and that a woman who survives, with her heart intact, is the richest soul of all. Time has written its story across her face, not with regret, but with meaning. Every line is a sentence she survived, every wrinkle a chapter the world could not erase. She does not hide her age. She wears it like truth, earned, not given. She has walked through seasons where hope felt distant, where tomorrow looked no different from yesterday. Yet she kept moving, step by step, carrying responsibilities heavier than her own dreams. She postponed herself so others could grow. There were moments when she deserved rest, but chose sacrifice. Moments she deserved comfort, but accepted hardship. She learned how to smile, even when life offered nothing to smile about. That smile became her armor, not to deceive the world, but to protect her heart. Her hands may be empty, but they are holy. They have wiped tears, held broken hopes, worked until pain became familiar. They never asked for applause, never demanded reward. They simply served, again and again, without counting the cost. She understands loss deeply, not as a concept, but as a companion. Loss taught her humility, taught her patience, taught her how to love without ownership. She knows that people leave, time passes, and nothing stays the same, except character. Even now, her heart remains open, not foolish, not blind, but brave. To love again after being hurt is not weakness. It is courage refined by pain. She chooses warmth in a cold world, kindness in an impatient age. At 60, she is not chasing recognition. She seeks peace. She does not need wealth to feel valuable. Her worth was proven in endurance, in loyalty, in love that never demanded to be seen. She stands as quiet evidence that true richness is not counted in possessions, but in how much humanity a soul can carry without breaking. She does not stand loud, yet her presence fills the room. There is a calm around her, born from storms already survived. She has nothing left to prove. Life tested her enough, and she answered with patience instead of bitterness. She knows what it means to be unseen, to give without being thanked, to love without being celebrated. Still, she never withdrew her heart. She believed that goodness does not need witnesses, only truth. Her poverty was never shameful. It was honest. What she lacked in money, she made up for in mercy. What she could not buy, she created with care. A warm word, a silent prayer, a meal made from little, yet filled with intention. She taught without lectures, guided without force. Her lessons were lived, not spoken. She showed that strength can be gentle, that dignity can exist, even in scarcity, that love, when pure, outlives everything else. Now time walks beside her, more softly. She has earned her slowness, her quiet moments, her right to breathe, without fear of tomorrow. The world may still overlook her, but the soul that knows her never will. To others, she may appear poor. To me, she is legacy. She is proof that the richest inheritance is not gold or land, but a heart that stayed human in an inhuman world. She was my poor woman, and my forever treasure. If her story touched your heart, don't scroll past it. Leave a comment, because some lives deserve to be remembered.